Shalom levoy navoy, Im Hashem lo yishmori, Shav shokat shoymai, Im Hashem lo yirne bayis. Shalom levoy navoy, Im Hashem lo yishmori, Shav shokat shoymai, Im Hashem lo yirne bayis. Shalom levoy navoy, Im Hashem lo yishmori, Shav shokat shoymai, Im Hashem lo yirne bayis. Shalom lo boy na boy, Hashem lo yishmori, Shalom shokat shoymei, Hine lo yodum velo yisham.
It's a Romans road and a Roman temple built 63 AD.
Lo yodum velo yisham, shoymei Yisroel, Hine lo yodum velo yisham, lo yodum velo yisham. Shoymei Yisroel, Hine lo yodum velo yisham, lo yodum velo yisham. Shoymei Yisroel, Hine lo yodum velo yisham, lo yodum velo yisham. Shoymei Yisroel, Hashem lo yivne bayis. Shalom lo boy na boy, Hashem lo yishmori, Shav shokat shoymei, Hashem lo yirne bayis. Shalom lo boy na boy, Hashem lo yishmori, Shav shokat shoymei, Hashem lo yirne bayis. Shalom lo boy na boy, Hashem lo yishmori.
This is where Abraham would have came and delivered Lot from captivity of the 5 kings.
And you'll see the brick archway. They thought that was invented by the Romans until they uncovered this. Jeroboam set up 2 golden calves. One was in Dan, right here. So you go through that gate right on there, walk all the way up, walk way up to the top of that hill, and you'll see the high place where they had that set. Walls. So these walls were reconstructed by Ahab. And so, but then you got the entry coming into the city there. You can look between this tree and you'll see a altar.
Yep.
That's just between that tree going right through there. You see an old altar.
Right there.
Yeah, they'd offer their little incense and different sacrifices coming into the city.
And this would have been by who?
Oh, that would have been during Ahab's time.
Okay.
And he built a big high place up there next to where that golden calf would have sat too.
Right. Headwaters of the Jordan River. Muslim call to prayer over the loudspeaker.
Lo yodum velo yisham, lo yodum velo yisham. Shoymei Yisroel, hine lo yodum velo yisham, lo yodum velo yisham. Shoymei Yisroel.
Hard image to see, but this is actually a mill that you would grind. 2 women grinding at the mill. I'll show you a better one later, but and there may be some here, but that's what that is. Broken.
These are all olive trees. Well, not that one.
What? Oh, yeah.
So this is for certain a synagogue that Jesus would have definitely preached in, and he would have stood right behind that bema seat.
And so all these rooms will depict different scenes that were going to happen, but just the tower was phenomenal.
And this is a Catholic.
Is that right? Yeah, it looks it to me. It's scripture, Matthew 14:30.
Catholic church with the pulpit shaped like a boat overlooking the Sea of Galilee.
Oh, people at church complain about sitting in the hard chairs and hard benches. They could have had this. It's funny when I'm doing tours in Nazareth, I'll tell everybody once we leave the Weaver's house, I said, no running. I said, but now look, go to the synagogue next. First one's in there, they get the most comfortable seats. And
He rose. Is that for the Baptist, right?
Yeah.
Sea of Galilee.
That other example of a house over there and how the complex was laid out, you'd have, you know, bedrooms, you'd have a workshop, you know, kitchens that was joined together with the family. And if you'll notice, like right there, you'll see those ones standing up with the plates on it. And so that gave light between one room to the next room as well. So then you'd have a second floor on top of it. Two women grinding at the mill, one taking another left. You take that piece right there,
Oh, okay.
you flip it over on top of that pointed stone.
Yeah.
You put a stick in both ends of it and you spin it. You drop your grain on the top, and then the grain goes down through that hole. And as the grain gets in between that stone and that top piece is beveled out, it grinds that wheat together. And so that's the picture in Matthew 24, two women grinding at the mill, one taking another left.
So the bottom set would have been
The salt stone,
1st century,
1st century,
and then that one Roman,
4th century.
4th century. Roman columns. This is a 4th century Roman temple built on top of a 1st century Jewish synagogue.
So here's some olive presses, and here's some of the small ones. These would be like if you have this small one in your house that you would use these small ones. You'd press your olives. These are bigger ones that's going to be used. This is like a 4th to 6th century style, which would match that of the area here, style of olive press. And you're going to have some wooden beams. It's kind of really hard to explain, to imagine how this one would be set up. But you're going to have wooden beams. You had some that were like corkscrew kind. But you'll see here, those two things there, those are millstones. And these are a later ones that were used, again, around 4th, 6th century. Notice how they beveled them. And to bevel them, what that would do is when you put your olives inside that pan where all that water's at, and you spin it around, as you spin that around, it pushes those olives to the center. And as you crush the olives, you're not crushing the seed as much. But what happens when you crush a seed is you get a bitter taste in your mouth. Take a grape seed, eat some grapes, and you get that bitter taste from the grapes. Same thing with olives. You're going to get a more bitter tasting olive. So these were more designed to push that olive to the middle. You crush it, but not crush the seed as much. And so once you get your olive mash out, then you're going to bring it over to the presses.
Shoyim Beit Yisrael. Hashem lo yishmori, shal shokat shoyim. Im Hashem lo yivne bayis, shalom lo boyno boyim. Hashem lo yishmori, shal shokat shoyim. Hey, hine lo yanum velo yisham, lo yanum velo yisham, shoyim Israel. Lo yanum velo yisham.
this is the Jordan right before it empties out into the Sea of Galilee. So
this would have been his view.
this would have been
He would have been on that
the
side.
the
because
maniac.
They saw him come out of the tomb, and so he would have been on this side.
Like right where these trees are.
Yep.
50 feet away.
Yep. It's literally, I mean, you could go in there if it wasn't for this. They got it blocked off.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And they would have saw the Lord down at the Sea of Galilee. Roman road. Be the very top of the city. This is the back side of the city. Still see Sea of Galilee, but then it opens up into a huge valley. You can see tombs down there.
Man, where's it? All right, you see one right over there.
Yep, I see it.
Okay. It actually goes in. It comes out way over there.
Yep, there it is right there in the
I can't
center.
see the other.
Okay, now tell me, where do you think the maniac would have came from?
Oh, it would have been one of those. Yeah, it'd have been right over there.
Right in there.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Where those caves are at.
Gotcha.
Those were tombs. I mean, you
And
literally, when you go in there,
Yeah.
I mean, you can see structures that were
Right.
built inside that cave
Yeah.
that people lived in.
Okay, and then where do you think the Lord would have been? Somewhere down
He'd have
in.
been down, and he saw him coming across the water,
Okay.
and he saw him afar off.
Yep.
And he came down, and he met him at the water.
Gotcha.
Met him at the
And so he had to come out of the tombs
He had to come out of the
and
tombs,
out of the city.
out of the city.
And this is
into
the only
city.
place that could have happened.
Yep.
What about that? And there's tombs all over the rocks right there. All in the rocks right there. There's tombs everywhere. Everywhere. Wow. And then the swine would have
Not
went
sure exactly, but it would have been somewhere
somewhere.
in this vicinity. The Bible says that they ran violently down a steep place.
And the swine could have been hundreds of, or even 1,000 yards away.
Could have been. Yeah. Right.
They don't have to be. It wouldn't have had to been right next to the man,
Right next to him.
but that had to been close enough for them to see them go off a steep place. The Bible says into the sea. Wow. So
So straight ahead, you see the city. That's the city of Tiberias. Now that was a Gentile city during the 1st century. It's a Jewish city now. It actually became the place of where the Sanhedrin would see.
okay,
But if you'll go to the right of it, you're going to see that cliff. You can kind of make it out, that sharp cliff. That's the Arbel, Mount Arbel.
okay,
And between it and the next mountain is the Arbel Pass. And that's where you're going to be traveling from the north side of the Sea of Galilee over to Nazareth. You'd have taken that path,
right.
and it would have led all the way down. And as you go over, you'll see Mount Tabor.
Okay, there's Mount Tabor.
Okay, so Mount Tabor.
Yep.
Just to the right of Mount Tabor, up on that ridge up there, that's where Nazareth is.
Okay,
And so you'd have taken that route all the way over towards
Gotcha.
Nazareth.
and then that is the south.
South side of the Sea of Galilee, Jordan River will come out of it. As you start going down this Jordan Valley, just to the left, you can't see it right now, but just to the left, that's the country of Jordan.
Okay,
We're extremely close to the country of Jordan.
right.
And as you keep going, the next valley that's going to be on the right, that's going to be the Valley of Jezreel.
I got you.
And so Megiddo, that's where Megiddo, that's Armageddon,
Yep.
that's that whole valley. That's
Gotcha.
where the kings of the earth will gather.
Wow. Incredible.
This is Hotel Dam.
And so it's a ritzy.
I think it's about as nice as you can get. Yes, sir.
I want to show this ritzy hotel that I have no idea how in the world we were able to stay in something this nice. We're gonna eat a massive breakfast in the morning. It's just incredible. So we got to our hotel last night. It was so dark we couldn't see anything outside the balcony, but this morning I come out and there is the Mediterranean Sea. That's the view out of my balcony. What a blessing. So these are kumquats here, and Brother John pulled one over on me.
I did not.
Told me to stick it in my mouth and eat it.
And if he would have, then he would not have had to clean his hands off after he tried to peel that little bitty thing.
Well, but the tartest thing I think I've ever put in my mouth. Brother Dave, wave at it.
Let's go up on the Gulanis.
Having a great time in Israel.
Wave, Mr. Dan. Yeah.
Built originally in the 1st century, King Herod, and then it was added on, another channel added on in the 2nd century, and that brought more water in because the city was growing rapidly.
Yep.
So it brought more water in. Then they expanded again, even up into the Byzantine era, getting the full what you see.
Okay,
again,
so
it comes for about 8 miles all the way up to the Mount Carmel mountain range, which
Mount
is
Carmel.
way up there.
Okay.
And
yeah, you can't see it on video. Well, you may be able to see it on video. Let's see if I can zoom in on Mount Carmel. Hard to see, but right in the middle of the frame is Mount Carmel, which is where the showdown with Elijah took place. But this is how they bring in fresh water to, and the place we're at is Caesarea, named after Caesar. But who started building this?
it was actually started originally, the town of Caesarea was started by the Phoenicians. It wasn't called Caesarea yet, but it was Phoenician. And so it had, I mean, old, very, very old. But when Herod came in,
and this was AD.
Yeah.
I mean, BC.
BC. So when Herod came in, Herod was a mastermind when it come to building. I mean, the stuff he built, it was insane as an engineer. But Caesarea, the port of Caesarea, he wanted to build this port, and he named it after Caesar Augustus. And this port actually rivaled that of Rome.
Wow.
And so when we get over at the next section of it, you'll see all the stuff that he had built. Phenomenal. But you know, you think in the Bible, remember when Peter and them, he was in Joppa on that roof and had that vision. And at the same time, there was a man up here, right here in Caesarea, Cornelius.
Yep.
And had that vision, and they went down to go to Joppa to get a man by the name of Simon Peter. Brought him up here, and this is where the Gentiles got the gospel for the first time, right here in Caesarea. So phenomenal. So,
and then of course the Mediterranean Sea. So fresh water brought in.
Shalom levoy naboy, Hashem lo yishmari, Shav shokat shoymai, Hashem lo yirne bayis. Shalom levoy naboy, Hashem lo yishmari, Shav shokat shoymai, Hashem lo yirne bayis. Shalom levoy naboy, Hashem lo yishmari, Shav shokat shoymai, Hashem lo yirne bayis. Shalom lo boy na boy, Hashem lo yishmari, Shav shokat shoymai. Lo yanum velo yisham, lo yanum velo yisham, shoymai Yisrael.
races.
There it is. This is Ben Hurd.
Jericho. So what's funny though about this one is the Jordan River used to not come through here. It was not until the 1970s that they made this baptism site.
Oh my goodness.
Because it would run right down by the Jordan, country Jordan,
Right.
and it still does. It diverts and goes down by it, but it was so dangerous because people were getting shot at.
Yeah.
And so it's too dangerous for tourists, so they created this site. You can literally go online, type in Yardenti, and it'll tell you the whole history of it. Yeah. Matter of fact, when I first found out about it, a friend of mine up in the north told me, he said, "Oh yeah, I remember when they made that." And I'm like, "Oh, they made what?" And looked it up, and sure enough.
So
but it's a
historically,
beautiful site.
nobody ever got
Oh,
baptized
Jesus,
here.
look at that catfish.
The biggest big one, huh?
There's a bunch of them there. Used to be, this whole area was flat full of them.
There you go,
All of
Jacob.
them. You'd go down there, the walls, but actually, you know, some of the ground that you'll stand on.
Old city of Jerusalem.
The Damascus Gate. They're trying to get 10 men to form a congregation. Basically, they're forming a congregation.
Right.
And then from there, they'll go through and read from the scroll out there.
Hezekiah, huh? Okay.
Hezekiah's Day. We're in a kibbutz in, where in the world are we?
Raim.
Raim. I ain't got a clue where that's at.
Raim.
Yeah, Raim is bad guys.
Huh?
Raim is bad guys.
Oh.
Raim is friends.
Oh. Wow.
A small difference. It's
Yeah.
like
Crazy. Yeah.
So we're real close to the what border over here?
Gaza.
Gaza.
Yeah.
Okay. Like real.
4 kilometers.
Four
Even less now.
kilometers.
Because
Well, yeah, when we were over there, we were even a mile. This is the bomb shelter that got hit, and right behind it.
Yeah.
That's Gaza. This is ground zero of the October 7th attack, and every one of these signs is a person that was standing in this area during the festival. They got killed. This is a Alabama in the middle of Jerusalem.
Look,
Everything is roll tide.
Alabama, the heart of Dixie, a gift of hospitality. Tied in the Holy Line.
Oh my goodness, the shofar will roll tide.
Everything.
My goodness.
you can do the
What is this called here?
chicken and beef.
No, what is that?
Shawarma.
Shawarma?
Yeah.
Ah. Shawarma. Is that right? Am I pronouncing that right? You say it.
Shawarma.
Okay. So that's inside of this pita bread. What's this thing right here called?
Falafel.
Falafel? It's not an awful falafel. It's a good one.
Deep fried chickpeas.
Okay. My goodness. Brother Sasser is saying that the place where the tourist trap of where Christ was buried in the tomb is not at that location, but he says he thinks that it's possibly right here in one of those tombs. Right in the center, there's a tomb, there's a tomb, another tomb, another tomb. There's just tombs scattered all over that hill right there, all the way around. Tombs everywhere. In those days, it would have been owned by very, very wealthy people. Well, they're still wealthy. Those are over $1 million houses that are bunched up right there. So it's still kind of the rich neighborhood, but it's owned by Palestinians now. Brother Sasser thinks that that is where Christ would have been buried at. And if I turn the camera, this is the Kidron Valley right here. Around that corner would be the eastern gate. And then up on top of that hill right there, that's the Mount of Olives, Garden of Gethsemane right in the middle of the frame. Brother Sasser wants me to get right here and have a picture taken here where
I think you need to get down there. I'll anoint you as king.
all right, Dan's going for
We're
it.
going to anoint Dan.
There we go. So who inhabited this place before King David took it over?
I have no idea. This is the this is the Jebusite city.
Okay.
And so David and his men would have conquered this city. They would have, matter of fact, the Bible talks about them coming up through the gutters. That's
Before
what
it
we're
was
getting
Jerusalem.
Before
Yes.
it was Jerusalem. So the king of Salem,
Yep.
Melchizedek,
This was
this
where he
is
would have
it.
been.
This would have been it.
Okay.
So he was the king of the Jebusites. And so they would have came up, conquered this city. This became the city of David.
Right.
And as the little funny sign here tells us, this is where they anointed the kings, the Gihon Springs.
So
right
I'm
here.
going to look around right here. All of this would have been dug out prior to David conquering this area. And so King Solomon would have been probably the first king to be anointed down here. Because David wouldn't. David was anointed by...
David was anointed in Bethlehem.
Yes. So this would have been the place that the kings would have came down in this pool and anointed. And we're way, way underground. We've went down so many steps just to get here, it's unreal. This is the tunnel that King David and his men would have came through to besiege the city. It is narrow.
Remember, I want to say about, well, they found that, okay, I want to say like 15 years ago. This
That
excavation.
cave was found 15 years ago.
I may be wrong on the number, but
Wow. And that is the only tomb that has ever been found in the city of David. Is that correct?
that's correct.
So theologically,
This
this is where all of the kings, starting with King David, would have been buried in that tomb.
David. When a king would die, it says, and they were gathered under their father David. That's the concept here.
Right.
So again, when a person dies, you basically got like a twofold burial. The first burial, they're going to take the body, place it in the tomb.
Right.
It's going to sit in there for a 1 year period of time. During that time, the flesh will rot off the bones. You're going to come back a year later and have a secondary burial where you're going to take the bones apart. You're not going to break them, you're just going to take them apart. And they will be stored in the tomb as well. And so that is the concept, because you'll use that tomb over and over and over again.
Right.
And so, again, so when it says when a king died, they were gathered under their father David, that's the concept of it.
Wow.
They would use that tomb. So a family tomb's the same
Right.
way as well. Same
Yep.
way as well. But when you get into the Second Temple period, in the New Testament era, they had little bone boxes called an ossuary box. These ossuary boxes would be different sizes based on how big the femur bone is. Because you're not breaking any bones, you're going to take the bones apart, place them in the box, and the box will be stored in the tomb. And so, same scenario. And so you'd have several boxes within it. There's actually a place going up the Mount of Olives right over there. Massive amount of ossuary boxes. And what's fascinating is the croca flower that's on those ossuary boxes, showing that burial that they found was a Davidic line.
Predated the Star of David.
So yes.
So
Second Temple period.
Wow.
That was the line of David up there. They found a bunch of tombs up there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so pretty interesting.
It is very. So, when would they have stopped burying kings in that tomb, you think?
Once the
Once the lineage was over?
yeah.
Or
First one died in Babylon. But
Right.
it was, yeah.
Yep.
And then you had the one that was a leper, was buried actually over there.
Right. Yep. Wow. All right.
Alexander the Great.
Josiah, look at these coins from Israel. Okay.
There's an Alexander the Great.
This is the widow's mite, you know, the poor widow.
I
she
do.
give
Yeah.
all she
Widows.
had.
Mhm.
But this is Constantine.
Constantine the Great. Wow.
It's a bigger deal.
Oh my.
And don't worry about the prices, I'll take care of you because of family. Your family.
He said, "Don't worry about the prices.
Don't
He'll
worry
take
about
care
the
of me."
price, Of course.
He knows how stingy I am. He's shaking his head. Yes, too.
Caesar Tiberius,
Uh-huh.
Caesar Augustus.
I have found me a coin dealer, hadn't I?
See, some of these ones I just found last night, but I need to clean them.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna put my camera over here. All right. Tell me what some of those are.
These are Roman Empire. That's Jewish revolt.
Yeah.
These are the widow's mites. That's Philistos, Alexander the Great. And these are Hasmonean. These are Maccabees, from Maccabees. That's Shimon Bar Kokhba, the freedom of Jerusalem. Pontius Pilate, and Queen Helena.
Wow. This is a pool of Shalom that they are excavating at the moment. Mount Zion right up. Right there. There's Mount Zion. On top of the temple wall. Looking down. That's the Muslim call to prayer. It's coming over the loudspeakers. Makes me cringe. What?
Pull the gate.
Okay. So these are 1500s era steps that were built then over the top of the original steps. But this is the original steps going up into the temple right here. And these would have been 30 AD era. People would have walked up these steps right here.
Yeah, notice
And
these
come
steps,
out.
you got a short step and a big step.
Right?
Short step, big step, short step, big step. Because As you're approaching the temple, you have to look down. It forces you to look down as you're entering in. So it's forcing you, supposedly, to humble yourself as you're
Right.
walking into the temple.
Wow. So this is the Jewish area?
Oh yeah, definitely. So this is the famous Ben Yehuda Street up through here.
Yep.
A lot of shopping, food, street performers.
A piano over here.
Down to the kids.
This little thing that Brother John's wearing is a kippah. Kippah.
That is funny. That is funny.
All right, give us some commentary, Brother
So
John.
you have the Garden of Gethsemane right down there, just on the right. So some of the olive trees down there, probably the seedlings go back to the time of Christ. I mean,
And
it's
we're
very
standing
old.
right now on the
We're
Mount of
standing
Olives
on
right
the
here.
Mount of Olives, and this was the elite cemetery in the Second Temple period. Remained that way all the way up until 70 AD, until the temple was destroyed. You got the Kidron Valley right at the base. You'll see right at the bottom down there, that's the tomb of Absalom. That's what they refer to that as.
Yep.
There's also one supposedly for the prophet Zechariah down there as well.
And then when we go up the hill, there is the Eastern Gate.
It's the Eastern Gate. Now, if you're standing here, you're looking at the temple. You literally, from the Mount of Olives, standing over here, you're facing the temple. So you would be looking into and seeing like the entry of the temple. Now, the Jewish historian Josephus said you could come up on the Mount of Olives and see inside the temple and see the veil inside the temple area. So when Jesus was crucified, standing beside him was a centurion. The Bible says the earthquake, the veil of the temple was rent in twain. It even talks about bodies of people rising up. And in one passage it says this, and when he saw these things, he said, truly this is the Son of God. Well, he saw what?
Right.
He saw the earthquake. He saw the veil of the temple rent in twain. Now, the two locations of normally where people point to for the crucifixion is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the Golgotha, or what they call Golgotha, which is the place of the skull over there, the garden tomb. The garden tomb. Now, if you're looking, the Dome of the Rock, if you look just to the left of it, if you see that dome, that kind of a grayish looking dome, there's two of them.
Yes.
That's the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Yes.
Just to the left of that, behind it, is going to be the garden tomb. So here's the problem with both of those views. It's behind the temple.
Right.
You're not going to see the veil from either one of those locations.
Right.
So neither one of them. So people always like to argue, well, it's the place of the skull, so it's supposed to look like a skull. There's multiple places around here that looks like a skull. You could go right over there and you could see the place where supposedly the field was purchased because of the money of Judas Iscariot. There's a place over there that looks like a skull. I mean, it looks really good. Not it, but it looks like it. There's several places you can find throughout. I don't believe it's a place that physically looks like, but I believe it's a place of what it represents. The place of the skull, direct object. If you remember when David killed Goliath, he chopped his head off. What did he do with it?
Bring it to
The
Jerusalem.
Bible says he brought it to Jerusalem. Now, if he buried it here or if he put it on what he did with it here, we have no idea. We do know that he had the sword of Goliath was here.
Priest there, yeah.
And matter of fact, it was just over on the other hill over there. That's where that would have taken place. That whole scenario with the priests were all killed would have been right over there with Doeg and so forth. So if, and again, you're just having to say if on this, if he would have placed that skull here and say this mountain became synonymous with burial,
Which it is.
It is and it was. It became the place where people bury.
Yep.
The place of the skull.
Yep.
So it's not what it looked like, but what it was and what it represented.
Sure.
And
Cemetery.
so very, very possible that it would have had to be on this side that Jesus would have been crucified. Some even say that it was, a lot of people hold to that grassy area over there, and they say that's the area that it would have been.
Right.
It's on the same mountain range.
Up on a hill.
It's
too.
outside the wall. It's right on the edge of the road. You got a road that would have been coming down the Mount of Olives, coming from Bethany, going through. You'd have main roads coming out, circling around, because the Romans, when they crucified, they hung the bodies on the sides of the roads.
Right.
I mean, insane the amount of people. When the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, I forgot the number. I'd have to go back and refresh myself, but Josephus recorded how many people were being crucified. It was insane per day how many people were being crucified because of the revolt. But he did make the statement there wasn't an olive tree left around Jerusalem in what would be equivalent today of about a 5-mile radius. They were cutting down all the olive trees. That's what they were using for crucifixion in that day. So it would seem to be on this side.
Spread on the table that we're sitting in front of. I can't believe how much food this is. It's amazing. And I'm eating sheep meat. Sheep, yeah. I think that's real lamb chops right there. Wow. And dessert.
Oh, I see. They were.
This is one of the 5 shoe shops left in Israel. So, and it still has a lot of the original equipment. Look at that Singer leather sewing machine and polishing machine.
I'm also like a business trainer, right? So about 10 years ago, I had a very interesting offer from two professors in university. They asked me to develop a teaching program for entrepreneurs who are 70 years old and older for the third age in Israel, first time in Israel. So we developed, the Joint, the huge organization called the Joint in Israel. It's a huge organization.
And this man's son is still in here making shoes where his dad retired. Parrots.
They are native to Israel or not. People say they escaped from somewhere, and they are so strong and smart that now they are all over.
Yeah, I used to see him up in Dan a lot.
This is a Roman theater, and the walls are built tall enough that the lions, bears, tigers and stuff could not jump over and out into the crowd that was watching them tear Christians up. This is 1st century and later. These would be the cages that they put either the Christians in or the beasts in and let them out. And this is the city of
Bet Shean.
Bet Shean, Roman city. What era?
This, what we're looking at here, is between the 4th to 6th century. your biblical would have been up on the hill. Remember back
That'll-
in the Old Testament, they would always build high up for protection.
Yeah.
And when the Romans came in and took over, then they began to build in the lowlands because there's nobody they had to defend against. They controlled the whole world.
Right.
Now Bet Shean was a Decapolis city, just like that over in Hippos.
Right.
So originally this became a Greek city during the Intertestament period. It pre-existed that. I mean, up to the very top up there, you can see where there were Egyptian artifacts up there. So Egypt controlled it. So it's an old place. But when we go in, we'll go in over here on this side.
Okay.
It's just cool. There's your box office straight ahead. And duck can go through.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is incredible.
That it is.
So this is the hill that they brought Saul and Jonathan to when they killed them. A Roman main street. Oh, I know how they could have done 2,000 years ago, done this fluting. Look at that. It's amazing. The architect.
Vérification doit d'abord se poser.